Okay, so in my presentation, we will be studying how we got the Bible and the King James translation of the Bible. We'll focus on why translating the Bible was so controversial. So in order to understand how we were able to translate the Bible, we have to understand how we got the Bible and how we know that it's credible, um, and why translating the Bible was so controversial and important. So, on the Gospel Project's website, Matt Capps wrote an article using Darren Brock's research and theological studies to write an article about how we got our Bible. He starts his article by mentioning that the books that we call the Bible are actually historical accounts that were traditionally passed orally, but were written by a scribe shortly after or before the message was passed in order to get the message from town to town so everyone could see what was going on. So there are 66 books in the Bible, 39 in the Old Testament, 27 in the New Testament. This image that I've included shows all the different classifications of the Bible, of the books of the Bible, sorry. So basically the book of Genesis would just go through as the book of Genesis from town to town. And I've included an image of the Apostle Paul's journey, so you can kind of see how it basically would travel, not necessarily in this exact order, but there were a lot of towns, and so just this one book would travel like this, which leads into my next point of how the Bible was put in a list as the Bible. So since these books were traveled from town to town, it's very difficult to just sit down and be like, okay, this is part of the Bible, this is part of the Bible, this is part of the Bible. So the people sat down around AD 250, and there's a lot of people actually sat down and noted that this is a solid list of the Bible. Most of the people had like 22 certain books and 5 that were kind of questionable, only due to size. Brock mentioned that Irenaeus and the Muratorian mentioned the core of the New Testament, noting the 4 Gospels, the Pauline epistles, 1 Peter, and 1 John. So what's important about these is these books were used since the earliest times in the early churches. They followed what was taught in the churches, had divine authority, and were written by an apostle or under the direction of an apostle. These were the classifications that you had to have, or the books had to have in order to be classified as the Bible. The books that aren't listed, like 2 John, 3 John, 2 Peter, James, Jude, Revelation, and the other ones, weren't not classified because they weren't seen as the Bible. It was just more difficult to classify them because of their size. So now that we've kind of cleared up how we got our Bible in a nutshell, we can look at why the King James translation was so important as well as controversial. So according to Richard Cavendish, John Wycliffe, which is the guy in this lovely image right here, was seen as a heretic for translating the Bible. So during this time, and I don't mean to sound like I'm bashing the Roman Catholic Church, because I'm not. I'm getting this straight from scholars' papers. So during this time, the Roman Catholic Church was having major issues, like the number of popes that they had at one time. There was a lot of arguing, controversy, stuff like that going on. They were also being exposed by multiple men for their false teachings at this time. I'll get into that more in a second. So John Wycliffe took the opportunity, knowing the stakes that he could be executed, because basically anyone who spoke against the Roman Catholic Church could be executed or hung, which is execution, for saying stuff like this. So even though John Wycliffe knew what the stakes were, he still translated the Bible so that everyone could have it. Cavendish included John Wycliffe's quote that he believed that all Christians should rely on the Bible rather than the unreliable and frequently self-serving teachings of popes and clerics. So by translating the Bible, it allowed us to be able to actually open the Word and read for our own understanding and not have to go directly to an institution to hear what someone else has to say. So this was controversial because it showed another reformist had seen the church as corrupt and immoral, because the leaders of the church were using everything that they were preaching, all of these false teachings, for their own financial gain. Like, you can be saved if you buy this candle or whatever, and that's not an exact example, but you kind of got the gist. So Wycliffe furthered the truth that the Pope is but a man, subject to sin, but Christ is the Lord of Lords, and his kingdom is to be held directly and solely of Christ alone. Wycliffe actually spoke that, so that is a quote from him. He actually used that in his teachings for other people as to why it's important, why you should be reading the Bible of your own. So hopefully I've provided you with some information to answer questions regarding the Bible and translation in a very fast nutshell. At first we discussed how the Bible came in canon and how the books were decided as canon. And then we went into why translation was so important. So I hope that you're more appreciative of the privileges that we have to be able to have the Bible in our own language and remember the sacrifices that were made from other people in order for us to be able to have our own understanding of the Bible.